So rather than making this rule that says, hey, you represent the people, don't take funding donations and then receive meetings. Instead, they say, how about we don't do it in Parliament and probs not in our electorate office?
You know what it is? Don't shit where you eat.
What can you tell us about what you saw with the inner workings of the machine that's going on, particularly related to the Labor Party, how this machine gets its money, and if there is still this pay for play for access, this pay for access to our politicians going on, despite Albanese's song and dance all about we're getting money out of politics?
Yeah, definitely. Well, one event does come to mind. We did organise a fundraiser in Canberra. It was going to be with Pat Conroy, and it was going to be at a Chinese restaurant called Chairman Yip's. At the last minute...
Succulent Chinese meal, I hope would have been enjoyed there.
Yeah. At the last minute, the minister was not available, so we had to just reorganise it all at the last second, and we moved it to Sydney for a few weeks later. But we failed to get into contact with one of the defence contractors who had brought a ticket, and the tickets were $3,000 a head. So they rocked up with their $3,000 ticket that they had purchased, knocking on the door, there's no one there. So we're in a mad scramble to figure out, well, what are we going to do about this? This person's paid $3,000. In lieu of having a dinner with the minister, we organised a meeting with the minister in Parliament House, which actually does break the code of conduct. However, because I work for a backbencher, the ministerial code of conduct did not apply to her or her staff. It only applies to the ministers and their staff.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in here for a second because I need to break this down for the punters and myself as well.
For yourself and me.
What's the difference between a backbencher and a minister?
Yeah, a minister's like the top dogs. They're they're holding a portfolio, and a backbenchers, they're just representing their electorate, right?
They hold a higher role within our government than the average MP or senator.
So there's a ministerial code of conduct that says that ministers can't meet in certain places and can't accept. What's exactly the rule that the ministerial code of conduct outlines?
Well,
for them?
specifically in regards to what happened in this case, you can't fundraise on Parliament grounds, and you cannot take money for a meeting as a minister. You
Oh, okay. Yeah. So another person would say, you can't take bribes. Quick question. What happens if a minister breaks this ministerial code of conduct?
That's a good question. I believe it gets referred on to the Independent Parliamentary Standards Commission, or if it's a serious violation, it might go straight to the Standards Committee, which is a committee of parliamentarians who get to decide whether or not the action broke the code.
And if it breaks the code, if all those boffins get together and say, oh, there was cash given and access received.
Well, the penalties are quite light. I believe that the maximum financial penalty is 5% of their salary, which I think the average salary is about $260,000.
It's what, like 12 grand?
So it's a couple grand.
Oh dear. And that's all. That's it. Just a bit of a financial penalty to the minister.
That is my understanding of. That's the biggest financial penalty. There might be. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not sure about what other penalties might be available. But if they were to be found to have broken the code of conduct, that would be that could be grounds for the Prime Minister to do a reshuffle. But that's a power of the Prime Minister, and it would have to be pretty egregious.
But it sounds like it's like internal. It's like it's up to the Prime Minister to then police it himself if his ministers took cash for access, and then we have to rely on this internal review process to maybe come back with, hey, you shouldn't have done that. That's what it sounds like.
And even the Standards Committee, it's their peers. It's the other parliamentarians who get to decide. So it's...
So you go in front of a group of friends and they say, what'd you do? Oh, I did a bit of this. Yeah, you'll be right, mate.
Yeah. You got $3,000 for us. Well done.
To be fair, I think they've got a bit of a cross-section, so I think there's a couple independents and a couple opposition members on the committee, but yeah, it's they're policing themselves.
I think we've got that now. Politicians policing themselves, holding themselves to a loose standard that, once again, only the top dogs are beholden to, but the lower dogs, the mid-tier dogs, the MPs...
The backbenchers. The
backbenchers is the technical term. They can take meetings for cash for access. Is that right?
Not on Parliament grounds. That is a blanket rule, and you're not technically meant to do it inside the electorate office Like inside their electorates, each member has an electorate office. Technically speaking, those electorate offices are meant to be for the benefit of the constituency, not for the private parliamentarian's own benefit. But in practice, whenever we needed to do something like that, we would just go to the cafe up the street.
What? So rather than making this rule that says, hey, you represent the people, don't take funding donations and then receive meetings. Don't do it. Instead, they say, how about we don't do it in Parliament and probs not in our electorate office?
You know what it is? Don't shit where you eat. That's literally the rule. And it's
I think it's written.
a big rule. Don't do it.
Now, Punter James.
We want you to eat, though.
We know you're hungry.
We really need you to eat.
So let's go back to this example being given. Now we're kind of getting this what can and cannot is not allowed, because we're loophole hunting here. We're discovering these little loopholes that when politicians say we're getting money out of politics and we're serving the punters and not our corporate donors, we're coming across direct evidence that this is how they don't do it. This is the nitty-gritty detail. Pat Conroy, does that ring a bell, Punter James?
Yeah, the Shortland electorate. That's local to us,
You're not
right?
in my electorate.
No,
You're just over the border.
Yep.
He's my guy.
There you go.
So this is personal for me.
Maybe you can get a cut of the 3K. Did he ever see that? I don't know.
So then let's break down this. Pat Conroy, my member, was on my vote card. Won't tell you how I voted, but he was on my vote card. He's the Minister for Defence. Is he? Is that what you're saying? Defence.
So he handles all of the contracts. Like, for example, we had a $300 million contract in our electorate handed to Skilkorski, which is a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin, the American arms company. So he is responsible for overseeing that type of thing. Anything that is related to defence industry. So the manufacturing of the Bushmasters, private maintenance contracts, that type of thing. So really, that's where all of the money is. Defence Minister is more responsible for overseeing the military itself, whereas defence industry, that's where the private companies can make big money.
Yeah, this is what I want punters to really understand is like this bloke, Pat Conroy, he is a maker or breaker of profits and contracts for corporations related to the defense industry. He makes or breaks them. And then you're telling me that there are meetings going on. Now I have this better understanding of this meeting that you're describing. Recap essentially what happened there, and then now we know the loopholes. Let's point out the loopholes.
So the whole fundraiser was going to be a dinner. It was $3,000 a head. We had people from Lockheed Martin, Alacaf, all of the big defence industry groups you can think of. We ended up having to postpone and move the date of the event and the location to Sydney, but we failed to get into contact with one of the people who brought a ticket. So they rocked up on the day, on a Monday. Restaurant was closed. They had paid $3,000, and they were calling me and my colleague to see like what's going on, to make sure he was happy and wasn't going to kick up a stink about losing $3,000. We organised for him to have a 15-minute meeting face to face with the minister in his parliamentary office during a sitting week.
Oh, and so that definitely would have broken the code of conduct.
100%.
But the loophole they used was that you guys organised the meeting and not him.
Yeah, so as the backbencher, we organised the meeting for the defence industry minister. So as a...
and was he just like walking past at the time and you were like, oh, funny that.
Could you walk past this office at 10 a.m?
Please come on in.
Fancy seeing you. Have we met before?
Fiona, have you met Pat Conroy before?
Yeah. To be honest, having a 15-minute face-to-face meeting is so much more valuable than being at a dinner. Because at the dinner, you're competing with 10 other like people who are wanting to get FaceTime with the minister, where if you can get 15 minutes to sit in front of the minister to plead your case for whatever it is you're trying to get, like that's so much more valuable than being at the same dinner.
This is how the Labor Party raises its money, by having these fundraisers. And it just goes to show that when you can look up on donationwatch.com, you can see all the donations from certain industries that they've donated. That's probably only half the money. Half of it slips through these other loopholes that we're looking for at the moment. But they always say, like a donation doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we get any special anything in return. Because I guess corruption would be, we take money, you get something. So the corporation's always like, no. Hey, we don't want anything in return. We just like what you're doing. But then when it comes down to it, some dingus doesn't check his email, right? Spends $3,000 on a ticket. Clearly, This is, it's not, I wouldn't say it's proof because who said it happened? Allegedly. It shows that if you're giving money, the politician knows what you're giving the money for. The bloke knows what you're giving money for, and he leaves satisfied with a bit of a meeting. What you're talking about now, how the Labor Party raises money, is that going to be impacted by these laws coming in, or will they find loopholes, do you think?
What I've seen of what they're bringing in, it won't affect the big problem, which is even if you restrict where these meetings can occur, you're still going to have people who will pay $3,000 a ticket
which they already
have a dinner with the defence minister so that they can talk about the contract they want to get. I just don't see any future or any regulation that can prevent that, unless you just ban corporate donations altogether. But then you'll just have people, you'll have executives who will personally donate the money, and they'll just find a loophole that way. I honestly don't see any future where you can get rid of the money. It's invasive.